to another week of the growth and scaling sessions. Today is going to be an awesome episode. We've got some amazing guests in the green room, standing by, waiting to talk to all of you. And the topic of discussion today is one that's super, super important if you want to talk about growth and scaling. In fact, I think that it could be the single largest mistake that businesses make. And that is the topic of client profiling. And I say it with tongue in cheek because we're so careful nowadays not to profile anybody. But when it comes to being in business, if you fail to profile, you fail to succeed. Every business needs to profile. You need to understand who your favorite clients are. You need to understand how they affect your business growth, how they affect your ability to grow, and are you reaching the right profile? That's the topic of discussion today. And I've got some amazing guests that are going to join me here in just a second. And this episode, if you know someone that needs help, maybe you know your company is not hitting the right profile, share this episode. Just share it with your boss, share it with your coworkers. Start a movement. Let's get you guys hitting the right targets and let's move forward. Today, we got two amazing guests that are on board and a third that may be joining us shortly. And we're going to just introduce them as they're here. We're going to start with Rebecca. Rebecca, I'm bringing you in. Give us a brief intro. Who are you and what kind of work do you do?
Oh my gosh, who am I? I am a retail lifer. Proud retail lifer. So I have worked in physical retail running stores for about 20 years. And a few years ago, I started my own agency called Recon Retail. And we help direct-to-consumer brands enter and expand their physical retail presence. So owned stores.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, that is going to be fun to talk about. Do you feel like you do a good job of profiling your clients?
So there's like multi-layers here, right? So there's me, Recon, profiling the brands that need our services. But then I think there's also this kind of like meta conversation that we can get into where how do brands decide who the store is for? Right. And so this is oftentimes an exercise. The first exercise that we will do with brands that don't have stores is who is your environment for? Who do you build this environment for? Because a store for everyone is a store for no one is something that I will often tell them. So
same with a business.
Yes. If your business is for everyone, you actually don't have anyone.
I love it. All right. We're going to next introduce our second guest, who's Jordan Mendoza. He is an amazing personality. Jordan, tell us who you are and what you do.
Perfect. Yeah. So, well, first off, thanks for having me, Todd and Rebecca. I probably got 2 years retail experience, so way less than you. But I did have my run at working super early AMs for the Gap, and I was like the shipping and receiving guy. You know, did that job, and then I did have an experience at Old Navy where they for some reason put me on the cash register. Worst place to put a guy that likes to talk to people because transactions are happening very slowly. So I think my bread and butter was folding the clothes, which I was very terrible at. So I'm
Jordan,
not a very good retail guy.
You didn't have a folding board? Come on, those little folding boards.
Yeah, that thing did not work. I don't like following instructions, so it just didn't
work
out
for you.
Me.
Jordan, I just pictured you as David Spade and Adam Sandler in the Gap stores on Saturday Night Live. Just cinch it. I don't know if you ever saw those episodes, but anyway.
I'm a terrible retail employee, so that just wasn't a fit for me.
But you're an amazing.
And I did it.
You're amazing profiler, and that's why we got you on today.
That's right. Yeah. So what do I do for business wise? So I have a company, Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting, and we help our clients, really build visibility, create awareness, create brand presence, build authority, and then monetize their audience. So that's what we do. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of profiling that you have to do. I think the best way to profile is to not know what you're doing and realize the type of people that you want to work with and that you don't. That's, right. Through painful experience, I think has been some of the best lessons that I've learned is just bringing on the wrong client, and you realize real quick, like, okay, that person is not in my profile. They're getting checked off of this box, and I'm not going to want to work with people that are like that. So I
I love
definitely
it.
like learning from experiences like that for sure.
I love it. All right. And our third guest, we have none other than Josh Holiday. Josh, talk to us, man. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so for the past, I don't know, 7 years, I've been a front-end developer and designer. So I'm kind of an artsy guy. I love balance on the website and creating some beautiful sites. It's a lot of fun. Last year, I pitched a guy to do a website for him and walked into this whole new, I don't know, world for me. He basically, I helped him build a website and he launched a course. And in his first day, he did like $242 in sales, ended his first month with 1,500. And now he's almost doing $1,000 a day right now. So he said, Josh, you kind of like walked into something here. You got to share this. And so I created a company called Postpony, and it was to initially start to kind of help people with automating their posting for like social media. But it turned into like really helping like influencers and content creators create a way, like an engine to bring in passive income, and it's super exciting. So that's kind of what we're doing.
And Josh is humble. Josh has been involved in this front end development and creative stuff his whole life. He's a creative person. And as long as I've known Josh, which isn't super long, but the time that I have known Josh, he does an amazing job of profiling. And that's why I wanted him to be on this episode specifically. He does a very good job of creating creative that attracts the right people to a site and to a product. And that's why he's had success in doing that stuff. So we got the intros. Now we're ready to go. First topic of discussion, you guys. This is something that I get asked about all the time, is who is my best client? I'm going to open it up. Who wants to speak to how do you determine the best client for your clients or for your business as you move into a relationship with your clients and stuff? Rebecca,
it's a good question. Look, I think the one that pays you money. No, I think your best client is the one that pays you.
Yes.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, Josh, I'm sure you have a lot of experience here, but I think just thinking back to launching my own consultancy, the client avatar that I had in my head ended up actually not exactly lining up with who the actual best client is right now. And that actually may evolve in 5 years as well. So I think it's for me personally, and I'm would love to hear what you gents have, because I think you have more experience here. You know, for me personally, it's been a little bit of like a listen, discover, explore. I mean, it's exactly what I tell the brands that we open retail stores for, right? Like, you decide who you're opening the store for, but then that might not actually be who walks through your doors. So then how do you adapt and adjust? Right. So.
Right. And yeah. I think physical retail is obviously like, that's where you really want to be present.
Yeah.
And you really want to see, if people are walking past your store into the next one, you're not doing something right.
Hold on. It's not a traffic issue. It's actually an attention issue. So.
Right. Yeah. And so to your point, though, who's spending money in the store is the second biggest thing. You know, Jordan, you're involved, I know right now, currently bringing a new brand into the States and helping them build their identity and some of their online digital presence. What do you think about this whole topic? I love your comment, Rebecca, about the fact that it's the ones that pay the most money. Like, how are you helping these clients nail down their ICP?
Yeah, for one, it's trying to get to the bottom line of what our values are. You know, the mission, the vision, the values. Understanding that first is really super helpful, because we want to serve people that are in alignment with those same values. So that's important. You know, figuring out what our content pillars are, like what do we want to be doing when we're putting out the content. That's something that we're in the ideation phase of right now, really just trying to build out those content pillars, and obviously our brand palette's gonna come, as that process concludes. And then it's all about, what type of content do we want to put out to attract the people that we're trying to attract. So we're right. We're literally right, as you mentioned, Todd. We're kind of in the thick of that process with that particular brand, and it's a lot of fun, right? Because I think Rebecca made up a good point. Down the road, that avatar is going to change, right? The people might look a little different. Like our avatar right now is people that want to create a sense of community, that want to collaborate more. The company stands for Work as One. It's called WASO. So how do we get that type of people involved? People that love helping others. That's really what our avatar is. And most people would like to say that's everybody, but it really isn't. You really will start to see people's heart. You'll start to see through the engagement, through some of the the different campaigns that we're going to do to create awareness. So it's really about testing. Honestly, you have to test, you have to put things out, and then you're going to tweak and iterate along the way.
I love it. I love it. Now, as you work with a brand, and also as your personal brand kind of starts to develop, and as your company's brand starts to develop, what do you guys see as a common mistake that clients make? Like, Rebecca, you brought up a good point of, like, you build a store thinking you're going to sell this one thing, but if they start buying something different inside there, what do you do?
Yeah.
How do you adapt?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see brands make is kind of like holding on to their, I don't know, like sacred cow, being so precious about these things. You have this hero product that you're obsessed with, merchandise it in the front to begin with. But that is, if the people are walking in because they see something in the back, guess what you got to do? Take that product and move it up to the front and flip it, and be, a little bit less precious about, how things are going, just because it's not, this particular product isn't resonating like you thought it would. So I think it's really just that. Yeah, it's that like test and iterate mentality.
I love it. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, like in my situation, I had a customer like tell me to build a company kind of idea, right? In reality, right? So I'll just say I'm riding this pony, right? This is my company. I'm riding this thing, and it's like, it's not mine. It's the public's. It's the people that need it. So it needs to be an organic, I can lead it. I can bring people in to help me on my team, but really it's got to evolve into the thing that the world needs, right? The thing that, where it needs to go. And like, for example, I just got off a call with a lady who, she's got like 1.6 million YouTube followers, right? And like 67,000 Instagram followers. So I could say, could I really help this lady? Like, you can assume that she's got it figured out. But we got on the call and she doesn't have it figured out. And so now I'm thinking with my avatar, like, do I still go for, 20,000 people on Instagram and like 500,000 on, you just have to get out there and really start the conversations and talk to people, right? I think that's the biggest thing.
Josh,
so yeah.
Josh, you brought up an amazing point that I think it needs to be thought of all the time. When you launch a business, generally you're launching a business to go out and solve a problem for somebody, right? Like, I think all of us are out there trying to solve a problem for somebody. Rebecca, yours is an obvious problem. You're looking for people who have maybe a digital presence that need a brick and mortar. Jordan, you're doing the opposite. You're helping someone, kind of build their online presence because they don't have one, and they're blazing their own trail. They're trying to build new client attraction, things like that. Josh, you're doing the same thing. I think as a business gets launched and they know what problem they're trying to solve at first, sometimes, to Rebecca's point, they have that special cow that they can't get rid of that kind of weighs them down, right? It kind of kills their progression because they think that everybody wants this special dress Well, guess what? That was 5 years ago. They wanted that special dress. And when you can't let go and evolve, how does that affect your persona? Is your ideal client profile, are they going to really still buy from you? Thoughts?
Well, it's you. If you don't evolve, your persona is you, yourself. And you can't get
Interesting.
away from it. So you gotta remember it's
Interesting.
other people.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I think specific to, you know, my world is a little bit different because you have a physical place. So it's not online. So you can't, you know, you're bound by geography. And, you know, another thing that I like to say to brands a lot is go where your customers are. So if suddenly your customers have migrated, and I think we saw this coming out of the pandemic, right? Like we saw people from San Francisco moving to Miami and people from New York moving to Texas and all of this. Now your customer is in a different spot. You might need to move. Like you might need to go somewhere else, go where your customers are. So I think it's, you know, it's there are applications that you can take that message and apply to e-commerce, right? Like where are they? Where do they hang out digitally? But, you know, I think it's like, don't, again, Todd, just like you were saying, you know, you may have an idea of here is who my customer is and they hang out here and they drink this wine and they like long walks on the beach and all of these things. But then you may actually find out that they don't like any of those things and they want to go hiking and take their dog for a walk. And then you have to kind of change your strategy,
Totally.
you know?
Totally. And brands that fail to adapt to that if they're not paying attention to their buyers, they're the brands that disappear.
Yep.
Think Blockbuster. What happened to Blockbuster?
I was just
You know what I
thinking
mean?
about that.
Man,
I was
so
just
many
thinking
dead
about
brands,
Blockbuster.
right? Yes.
You know, there's so many examples of brands not listening to their avatar and not listening to the people that they should be profiling to, and they get left in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jordan, when you go to build and help your clients build their persona, is there a process that you go through? What do you try to go through first when you're working with a brand to kind of nail down their style of who they want to target?
Yeah, for one, it's we got to talk about what their goals are. You know, is their goal brand awareness? Is it, you know, to create another client acquisition platform? You know, like are they trying to build their email list? Like what are their goals, right? And then once I find out their goals, we got to obviously pick a platform. We work with clients, you know, on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Some of them on multiple, and some of them on just one. So we got to find out the platform, and then the first thing that happens on, regardless of which client and which platform, is we have to optimize the profile on that platform. And so what does that look like? It's, you know, a top to bottom approach. We're looking at on a platform like LinkedIn, we're looking at their banner image, you know, do they have one for one? You know, what changes need to be made? Is there a good call to actions? We're looking at their headline text, their actual photo. We look at their about summary, and we're really getting that stuff dialed in so that it's SEO ready. It has good storytelling components. We're maximizing our call to actions. All the bells and whistles and features are dialed in, because it's important that no matter what platform you're on, you always have to go back to the foundations. You have to go back to the basics before you even, you know, think about your content strategy. And I think that's where I see most people fail, or they're just not educated on it, and they start a content strategy, but people are coming back to their platform and it's just not in alignment, and there looks like there's things missing, and then that, you know, probably hinders them from, you know, reaching out in an inbound message or something like that. So we start with the foundations and then we really work our way up from there.
I love that. Where do most people's foundations sit? I mean, is it, do you talk about?
There's usually 15 things that I can improve on almost every profile that I come across. I mean, it's just because, you know, most people don't look at the lens even though when video was introduced in 2019, LinkedIn really started to take off as a social platform, and people are still just figuring out that it's a powerhouse of a platform that you can build massive presence, and newsletters are hot, and there's really a big way that you can build your brand on LinkedIn, and people are still just figuring out that it's a thing, because again, you have to think about it. It was focused for, almost 2 decades as the job place. And so most
Right.
people's initial perception is, hey, I just got a new job. Let me go update my resume, which will send out a notification. And then the people in my network see it and they'll congratulate me. And I'm going to do the same thing. And that's how most of us used LinkedIn, back in 2018 and prior, was literally
Yeah.
for that kind of function. And then they started adding things like you can follow people in video. And that's really when it started to take off. So a long way to answer the question, but most people's lens is it's very linear focused, and they look at it as a job place. So that's why it's easy to find areas of improvement in almost every profile that you come across, as long as you're looking through it through that lens and they're still looking at it through the original lens.
So Jordan, you brought up something that's really important in profiling, and that is being consistent. I think that one of the big problems, and Rebecca, I'm sure you can speak to this too, in terms of what is in a store, what is in a retail location. If you got jewelry over here and clothing here and hair products here and makeup over in the same store, people get confused and they don't know what to do once they've arrived in that store. But online presence is exactly the same. Now, to Jordan's point, it's like when you don't have a consistent message speaking to your profile that you're targeting, they're gone. They're out. They're out the store. You may have had the exact thing they were looking for in that storefront, but because they didn't see it up front and they saw this other distraction, they left. They didn't see the thing that they wanted. Rebecca, how do you coach these brands through that? And then Josh, I want you to follow up with that on how do you do that on a digital presence, a digital storefront?
Yeah. So we talk with brands a lot about what we call the the customer journey. So what story are you this is physical or digital, but for us it's like very much a physical. How does like the customer track through your store? Because I think, Todd, the example that you gave of, a brand selling clothing and then jewelry and then, I don't know, perfume and whatever,
Yeah.
you just described a department store. And guess what? They're not doing so hot right now. Now,
Right.
That does not mean that you need to have a single product store always and only forever. That's the only way it's going to work. I think the problem with the department store is they're a store for everyone. Therefore, they are a store for no one. So it kind of goes back to this, like, who is your store for, physical or digital, and how are you taking them on a journey? How are you telling the story? And I think, prior to being purchased by Macy's, there was actually a store called Story that did this really well. Macy's got a hold of them and kind of ruined it, frankly, but, did this really well. There was a lot of storytelling around and inside of Story. So it is possible, but you really have to be disciplined about who your store is for. What story are you telling them?
I love it. I would love someone in the comments to throw in an example of a brand of that tells an amazing story, because I love that. It helps profile people. I love seeing examples of storefronts that tell a good story, and that's why they're successful. So I'm going to leave that there. Rebecca, that's an awesome comment. Josh, how do you translate that into the digital storefront or selling, in your case, courses or intellectual property that people have?
Well, I think in my world, if there's an influencer that's got a certain, tone or voice in their audience, right? They're putting out content and it's of a certain nature that needs to transfer. As I'm trying to build out their brand in a different place than they're used to, that needs to transfer, right? So, I think for the last couple of years, or at least year, I've really leaned into the Donald Miller Story brand concept.
Yeah.
And to be honest, whether either you can communicate to the individual that's visiting your website that you're the best, right? And that that's why you should totally buy from me, because, I've just got a lot of credibility and trust. Or the better, I think solution would be to communicate that the customer, is the hero, right? And that's kind of the idea behind the Donald Miller story brand thing, where you're really focusing on them and not on you. And I think if the messaging isn't clear, like with a client of mine, on what they really stand for, I like what Jordan is talking about, really understanding their goals, their mission, and their passion, right? And bringing that into the digital format. So that's kind of, how I would approach that.
Awesome. Jordan, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's spot on. It's got to be in alignment. I mean, people can tell, right? Right. If it's not in alignment from their actual brand to the digital side, people are going to smell it a mile away. So it's got to be authentic. It's got to be the same. It has to have the same feel and look, exactly how he said. So,
Hey, Jordan, one question though, and I'm Rebecca. I think you probably get the same thing from the brick and mortar side, but when you've got a client who has multiple skill sets or multiple talents or multiple directions they can go, how do you encourage them to lean into their strongest one? How do you help them find that strongest piece that they do?
yeah, for me, it's just encouraging them. It's making it known that that is their strength. Like, hey, you did so awesome in that video, especially for people that hate themselves on video. I don't know, Rebecca, Josh, if you can relate. When I first started putting out video content, like I hated it. It was like I was like, who wants to listen to me? So we all get that imposter syndrome, but I think it's important, especially if it comes natural to people, that you highlight and you encourage them and you say, listen, man, you did a great job. And also, I think it's equally as important. You got to be very tactful, but if it's not their skill set, then you also should bring that up as well and be like, yeah, you know what? I think we should stick to the graphics. I think that might be better. But again, it's you have to be tactful in both cases. But I've had to do it. I mean, I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but there's certain people that are just meant for certain things, and that's where their gifts and their strengths lie. And we just have to be realistic. But I think from someone who cares about how people feel when I'm talking to them, I try to communicate it with grace and empathy and as much tact that I can.
Rebecca,
I can see you're a straight shooter, Jordan. I can see you're a straight
Love
shooter.
it.
Man.
It's great.
Jordan doesn't mess around. And honestly, we can't mess around. When we are trying to build and grow our businesses and we're talking, about growth and scaling, right? When we are trying to grow and scaling, when we've already launched our business and we're kind of out there, but we're stuck from a revenue standpoint, more often than not, it's because we stopped listening to our avatar. We stopped listening to our potential buyers. And I want to kind of end with the, maybe a last round of comments about this, but like, as you see clients launch successfully and then get stuck and they can't quite dial in how they made success happen early and translate it into what they need to do moving forward. What do you see as how much of that has to do with profiling the right clients and how does that affect their ability to grow and scale? And we'll just kind of close off with a round of that from everybody. Jordan, you're already on the big screen. Why don't we get your thoughts on that first, and then we'll move to Rebecca and Josh.
Yeah, I think I think you kind of hit it on the head earlier. They've got to be open and willing to the feedback. Because if they're not open to the feedback and they're not willing to make the changes, then nothing's going to change, and the quarter's going to go by or half the year is going to go by, and they're going to be looking at you wondering like, hey, what happened here? So there has to be some type of shared ownership. There's got to be joint responsibility. You as the person helping the brand and the brand themselves. I think when you can collaborate more with them and have more touch points and really have them bought in and committed just as you are, that's where I think the magic happens. And unfortunately, it doesn't always happen that way, and that's why we're consistently getting new clients and clients might be leaving or going and things like that. But I think doing your best to create some type of shared ownership environment is the best approach.
Love it. Love it. Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, agree. And I think, it's interesting because even in this answer, and Jordan, in your previous answer, I kept thinking, you all live in this digital world, right? And I live in the physical one where helping brands come from this ether of the internet where there's a lot of noise and you can get lost into a physical environment is such a gift because you get that direct customer feedback every day. They will give it to you. They do not mince words when they are in front of you if you just will listen to it. So I think, continuing to, how do you not get stuck, Todd, I think was your question, like continuing to listen to that customer feedback. And then kind of on the flip for, growing my own business side, the retail landscape over the last even just 2 years has drastically changed. And the offerings that, customers or brands find valuable, my customers being brands find valuable, are different than they were in 2019. And so I think similar, giving myself a dose of my own medicine, continuing to listen to their feedback, just like they should listen to the customers that are in front of them in their stores, is really how to kind of get that unstuckness in there.
I love it. That's perfect. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, so I'll apologize. I had to answer a text from my wife real quick.
Oh, geez.
So I'm not sure I have the right answer, but I do have an answer, and hopefully this is useful. But I want to be transparent. So I'm not sure this will apply, but we interview every applicant right now for our program. So what I'm seeing is if someone is hungry and really has the desire to either come on board or make some progress or build their business or create passive income, those are the kind of people we want to work with. So I don't want to have to pull someone along, or chase them down to make the sale, or chase them down to get the document or content or files for the designs or whatever. So what I try to look for, and this was my first customer, back to the guy who told me you should build a business out of this thing because it worked really well for him. He was that way. He was like, when I told him to do something, he did it. And, not all customers, Jordan, I'm sure and Rebecca, not all customers are going to be like that. But I really try to look for the people who are hungry and want to get after it, because guess what? That's what we are at Postpony. We are hungry. We want to get after it. And so that could possibly help them getting past things. They've just got to have that energy going. Does that apply, Todd?
That totally applies.
Yep.
Totally applies, Josh. And one thing I want to add to that, and I'll just kind of close with this thought, because I think it's relevant to what everyone just said. Josh, just because you're hungry, don't eat everything, right? Like I like how you started that comment of, you've got to be able to offer up what you like to provide. I actually had a call this morning with Zandra Evans, who made a comment on this LinkedIn portion here. One of the things that brands struggle with a lot, and when they get financially stuck in their growth phase, is they need to think about the two big things. First, who their favorite clients are, not just all the clients that you could ever want to have. If I have a goal of having 100 awesome clients this month, maybe that's not a great goal. Maybe the better goal is I want 10 awesome clients that model the ones I currently have right now that I love. And it was funny, Zandra and I went through this conversation this morning, and I'm just going to tease her a little bit. We talked about attributes that her 3 favorite clients have and attributes that her 3 least favorite clients have. And yes, we all have least favorite clients. I hate to say that out loud, but we all do. And when we think about our favorite clients, let's repeat that. How did we attract them, and what value are we bringing to them? And I think that when we go through that exercise, we really do learn to profile better. To Josh's point, he interviews all of his potential clients. Like, figure out through an interview or whatever means you want to, how do you identify the ones that you actually like working with versus the ones that are going to be the problem child? And I think that is kind of the big emphasis I'm going to leave with everybody is don't just work with anybody. Learn to profile better, and you're going to love your business more. You're going to provide better solutions, and you're going to have happier clients more often than you would trying to service everybody that might have a slight interest in what you're doing. So with that, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate all of your feedback.
Thank
Great
you.
comment.
Thank you.
And I highly encourage everybody to follow these people on LinkedIn and listen to more of their content. They are constantly producing and putting things out. I know Rebecca's really, really into Twitter, a lot more so than LinkedIn, but this broadcast is going everywhere. For those that want to follow these people, follow them where they're at, and they're going to give you some great insights into your growth and scaling journey. And we appreciate being here for another round of the growth and scaling sessions. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
See you, Todd. See ya.